Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, people of all ages, welcome back to the Sticky Floors podcast. It's been a while, but me and Mr. Will are back. We just, we're back to work, but we still smell like a vacation. We took a couple weeks off, man. After season 7 ended, we are back with season
Crazy.
8, and yeah, right, 8 seasons, right? We on our third
Yeah, man.
summer, right? Like, so we're in the, like, is this the blueprint? No, this is
So what? Yeah,
what is
is
this?
Hell Awesome?
In my lifetime, where are
Uh,
we in? Where are we at in the Jay
Well,
Z summer
if it's three
catalog?
summers, so it's not. It's the joint with him and wearing the black suit on the cover with Money Cash, and yeah,
Oh, Jay Z, yeah, yeah. S. Dot Carter, is that where we are,
Mike.
man? Dang, I feel like all right. I know you're gonna
Yes,
look
I
it up
have.
while I'm saying while I'm walking. Okay. So look, so as you can see, we blend a lot of different
Mm-hmm.
things here, right? Sometimes it's movies, sometimes it's hip hop, but it's predominantly movies. And in our show, if this is your first time listening, we cover movies that have been in theaters for a while. We cover movies that are coming up in theaters. For the next couple of weeks, we are going to be covering Mission Impossible films. Tonight, we are starting with Mission Impossible 2. Next week, we'll be doing Mission Impossible Fallout and building towards Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning, which will be in theaters. So, if this is your first time joining us, welcome to the experience. If you're coming back because you've been with us for a while, thank you for continuing to support us. We want you to subscribe right now to our channel. This is our YouTube channel or our Apple Podcast channel or our Spotify channel. And if you want to continue the discussion with us, please know that we got a Facebook page, we got a Threads page, we got an X page. So we're posting things all the time and just figuring out ways to continue to engage our community around these incredible things called movies that add richness to our lives.
Ooh, that
With
was
all that good
poetic.
stuff said, Mr. Will, what's up with you, man? How are you
Well,
doing tonight?
I'm figuring we're on what is it, volume 2, Hard Knock Life. You know what I mean? So
Hard Knock
you
Life.
know,
There it is.
just trying to stay in that vibe, man. Keep it moving, keep it pushing. What about you, sir?
Right. Yo, I'm just trying to, keep it like the memory of Big,
Mm.
That's what I'm trying to just stay in that vibe with it, man. But this is good, man. It's been a while, like we took some time off. It's good to come back and come back into the movies, and this gives us a chance to talk about movies that we've seen before and just kind of reevaluate. So I'm looking forward to that. And with that said, let me kick it over to you, man, so we can start talking about Mission Impossible
Yeah,
2.
definitely, man. In Mission Impossible 2, Ethan Hunt returns with the pulse-pounding mission that pushes the boundaries of danger and deception. Tasked with retrieving a lethal German-engineered virus known as Chimera before it falls into the wrong hands, Ethan leads an IMF team consisting of Nyah Nordhoff Hall, a professional thief, Billy Baird, a Australian helicopter pilot, and his trusted buddy Luther Stickle, a computer engineer expert hacker. They are playing a deadly game of cat and mouse here, in which the mission takes a perilous turn when it is revealed that not only one is racing against time, but multiple individuals and parties are racing against time. Standing in his way is Sean Ambrose, a former IMF agent gone rogue who now leads a ruthless band of international terrorists. With the cure to that virus already stolen by Sean Ambrose, Ethan Hunt must navigate betrayal, high octane chases, and explosive confrontations in a race to stop a global catastrophe. As the stakes rise, loyalty is tested, and every second counts in this sleek, high stakes thriller where the impossible is just the beginning.
There it is. There it is, man. Yeah. And this movie, Mission Impossible 2, so obviously this comes off the heels of Mission Impossible 1, which sees, Ethan Hunt's journey, the start of his journey with the IMF, and now he continues into this. And one of the things I always remember about this movie, I saw it in the theaters
Get
when it
out of
came
here.
out.
Okay.
And yeah, and I remember seeing him like climbing
Yeah,
that mountain
everybody
in the
remembers that.
beginning. And yeah, climb like with just the
Yeah.
chalk on his hands, no ropes, no anything, right? And he jumps across and he
Mm-hmm.
slips. And he slips and he grabs on the one and he grabs onto the other side. And I just remember thinking, like, wow, it looked
Mm.
crazy, right? Then you start to learn the history of Tom Cruise and like the stunts that he does. But I've always felt like that scene, that opening scene of his character, the real introduction of his character, it just made me think, okay, if this dude does that, then I know he can do all
Mm-hmm.
this other crazy stuff that he's about to do for the next 20
Yeah.
years of films that we're gonna see from
Yo, and
that
that's
point.
the thing too, the believability aspect to that, it really
Yeah.
like puts you in that frame of mind of like anything is possible and the stakes are so high and
Yeah.
that, you know, there's nothing off limits that he won't do in order to put forth a quality product.
Yeah.
And the thing too, from a cinematic standpoint, you're like, all right, I don't have to worry about seeing a double and them changing or the glitches or
Yes.
this shouldn't be there, all these goofs. Like, all right, they can get this done in one shot and everything is seamless and it's
Yeah.
continuous. That really drove home the point for me, man.
Yeah, and that's a great point. The fact that Tom Cruise is willing to put himself on the line the way that he is allows the directors, in this case John Woo, to do
Mm.
so much with the
Yeah.
angles. Because sometimes if it was a double, they might have to show you the back of the car. But like even when he's riding the
Oh
motorcycle,
yeah,
they're able to show you
that's
his
him.
face all the time because it's him, right? So it works. And I think like that also just, as you said, adds a level of authenticity to the overall film product. And I think like just as people that watch these movies, even if you're a person who's not a fan of like the quote unquote espionage spy movie, I would encourage anyone to check out a Mission
Mm.
Impossible film because they're all done with tremendous care and with tremendous concern and thought for like the audience
And
experience.
you hit on a great topic there, and that's these guys are curators, but yet they're also stewards of this long living, work of art. It's breathable. It's ever expanding because one, it started off as a TV show back in '66.
Yes.
Then there
Yep.
was another TV
Hmm.
show, I want to say around like the early '90s, and then afterwards,
Hmm.
now you have these movies, and this franchise has given birth to not only other films of the same ilk, but at the same time, it's
Yeah.
revised careers. Like John Voight, for a minute, he was done. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
he wasn't really as serious into his acting at that time. And then all of a sudden, this comes out, boom, he jumps off. The cameo by Emilio Estevez, same thing. And
Yep.
quite frankly, nobody thought that uh, Tom Cruise had it in him to be an action movie star. I mean, like,
Right.
yeah, sure,
Right.
there was Top Gun and things like that, but not like this. Not to the
Yeah.
degree
This is
where
different.
he's actually engaging in physical combat and doing all of these heavy lifting and these very active stunts. And I think as a byproduct of him doing that, it raises the levels of those who come on to the movie to the various movies with him, where they're like, man, if he's doing this and he's 60 years old, 50 years old, 40 years old, what's my excuse? Now
Yeah.
I've got to raise
Yeah.
the bar because his standard is up here. Whereas, I'm cool, but now I can see like there's more growth and more expansion for me simultaneously.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's also a reimagining of the
Yeah.
action hero, right? Because, for me, we grew up in
Hmm.
the 80s when it was like, Arnold
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Jean-Claude Van Damme. If you didn't have
Nah, it
big
was a wrap.
muscles and a six pack, you really
No.
couldn't do that, right? And then you start to see like the Tom Cruise and then, even like the Jason
Hmm.
Bourne films. Like these are people that were imposing and they were able to operate in that space, but they don't necessarily have to be like, the over super roided out type of
Hmm.
dudes in order to make that happen. So it is like he like these movies and Tom Cruise are in a real interesting lane. And Mission Impossible 1, the first one, I think is a really good
Yes.
intellectual kind
Yep.
of thriller and a
Hmm.
mystery. This movie isn't as much mystery, but it is like more action
Agreed.
oriented. And part of that is the John Woo style. But I think it starts to set the trajectory for like what you're going to see from Mission Impossible films from this point
Great
forward.
point, man. Great point. Because uh, you know, Tom Cruise is 5'7". Some of the
Right. Maybe. Is it even 5'7" for
well,
sure?
supposedly per Amazon Prime, he's 5'7".
Okay.
Um,
All right. Okay.
but
All
even
right.
with that being
Okay.
said, he's a little dude, so we'll leave it at that. You know what I mean? He's five something. Arnold Schwarzenegger is 6'3". You know what I mean? So like when you're
Right.
thinking of that, but even Sylvester Stallone, he's a short guy, but he's taller than Tom Cruise. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
he's
know what I
like
mean? So like
5'10". Yeah, I remember that from
all
the
of these
boxing movie.
guys, like you mentioned, like they are in excellent physique when these movies are coming out of them being the action hero. And the whole premise of being an action hero was looking the part. You may not have done your own
Yeah.
stunts, but you look like you could do your own stunts. Well, Tom Cruise put
Yeah.
that mythos to bed where he was like, look, I'm a regular guy, and most of the people who do these things, they're regular people too. They're not in Gold's Gym, and
Yes.
they're
Yeah. Yeah.
contending
Yeah.
for Mr. Olympia. Like, no, most of these guys, they're in good shape. They're not roided out or HGH'd out. Like they're in very good physical shape where they can do these things. They have the dexterity, they have the flexibility to engage in all these different types of action movies.
Yeah, and he's right in
Mhm.
that mix. And this film, like they take the Ethan Hunt character and I think they kind of
Yeah.
level it up some from where it was in the first one. So right away, I think one of the things about this film is stylistically, it's a different version of Ethan Hunt from what you saw in the last one. Because last one he's kind of got the
Yep.
clean cut hairstyle, everything. This one he's got his hair grown out. He seemed like he's getting paid a little bit better
Mm.
now. I
Got
mean,
a
his
bump.
vacations
Yep.
is better. Larger states on larger states,
More
larger
states.
stakes on larger states are, so he's doing well, right? And there's like a coolness factor to him that he starts to bring in this. And it kind of works. Where you see it the most is his interaction with
Mm.
Nyah, and I forgot the whole name, but with the character played by Thandiwe Newton, who's the thief in the film, but also becomes like the love interest and also is like this kind of anchored female character in the
Nia
film.
Nordiff Hall is her name.
Night of
But
Yeah,
no,
thank you.
I get your
Thank
point
you.
with it though. The thing with this is he's always had a love interest, even with the first movie, where it was someone who caught his eye or he was smitten with or whatever have you. This one,
Yeah. It was with John
yeah,
Voight's wife in the first one, was it?
but that was because she was the one who was manipulating him.
Yeah, I know. I
Like it
remember. Yeah,
wasn't
I
like
remember.
he
Yeah, I
was like,
remember. I remember.
you know what? Now that he's dead, like let's
Yeah,
do our thing. And
yeah,
it was all a ploy to
right.
get him to be in a vulnerable state.
Yeah, no, I got
But
you.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
no, he was trying
definitely,
to put him in the
he
box.
should
Yeah,
have did.
literally
He
and
should,
figuratively.
wow, that's crazy. But yeah, he should have put the pump the brakes on that one. But in this one, he can get to fully explore that side of him where it's like, wow, I can
Yeah,
give into the temptations and say I'm only human. And with that even being said, she even starts to take on some of the traits and the characteristics of being a humanitarian, being the one who's willing to sacrifice and lay it all on the line. She becomes more heroine-esque type, which is also a change of pace for her character because she's a known thief and all for
yeah.
self. She doesn't work with anyone else. She's a loner. It's her reinventing herself along the way.
Yeah. And Thandie Newton in this, man, I remember seeing this and just being like blown away. Like this is
Hmm.
2000, watching Thandie Newton on screen, and it's like, she's got like that kind of like little like
Yeah.
nastiness to her, and then she got like the accent, which makes everything refined and everything. And I remember watching like, man, yo, I want to see her in more stuff, right? Like if they had made the
Oh
Batman
yeah,
then, Thandie Newton
that
would have
woman. Yep,
been Catwoman. Like she would have been perfect for
definitely.
that role because she was just so good in this. And I will say that I do think the movie in the beginning it seems like it knows what to do with her character, and then it kind of
Yeah, that's
falls
the
apart like
unfortunate
as
part.
the movie goes on, which is a loss to the character. But still, when I go back and watch it, she's like one of the things that I always really
Yeah, and
liked
that's
about
the thing too. When you have an actress who they automatically put her in the whole damsel in distress type of
it. Yeah,
thing,
they
where
did. Yeah.
all right, I get it. She's not kicking her way out of this stronghold with all these trained IMF guys who outweigh her by at least 100 pounds and who have been skillfully
Hmm.
doing this for at least 5-7 years. But at the same token, it does do her a disservice when she's an adrenaline junkie. She is the one who's out there, ramming her Audi into a Porsche on the side of a
Yeah.
cliff.
Right. That beautiful
Yeah,
car. They
just
destroyed it.
killed it. And at the same token too, she is risking life and limb by going into these homes, no matter how much information she's been able to get at her fingertips and knowing these security systems. Anything could go awry. Anyone could be there at the wrong time or unexpectedly. And therefore, when these individuals are introduced into the fray, her life is on the line too.
Yeah. Yeah. They could have given her more
Yeah.
to work with. And I definitely agree with that, man. It's also interesting to watch this movie in 2025 when the crux of it is this idea of a
Yeah.
virus being created that could kill millions of people, and then a pharmaceutical company having the cure and then wanting to sell the cure in order to make money. And I just watched it. I remember watching the movie and thinking, oh wow, that's terrible, something
Yeah.
called the chimera virus. But now the post-COVID world, it's like, dang man, maybe there's like some truth to all this stuff that you're seeing in these films, because you can make a case that that kind of reality played out in many ways, shapes, and forms for
I
us
always tell
today.
people, man, Hollywood always tells on themselves. Like there's something that
Yeah,
always
big that,
happens where it's almost like a confessional. Like, yeah,
big that.
we do have this virus and we have been doing these illicit things and we shouldn't have been doing them, but guess what? We're all doing it in the name of science, quote unquote. Meanwhile, you got these individuals making crazy bank, you know,
Right. Stock prices, right. On the
And none of
rise.
it
Yeah. How
none of
about
it
it?
is in the altruistic vein of helping mankind exceed their limitations and such. And that part of me, um, I hate to even be that type of guy where I'm pessimistic, but it's just so disingenuous. And simultaneously, when
Yeah.
Ethan is on this trip, now you understand why he goes rogue, because he's like, hey, we're supposed to be the police of the globe, not of just the United
Yeah.
States, but of the entire world and all of its citizens. And we owe a duty to protect those who can't defend themselves. And here we are, trying to be part of the problem by thinking we can control a virus. And what happens
Yeah.
if it spills again, or somebody tries to steal it again? Or what's not to say that we're not going to weaponize this?
Yeah. And that's actually a great point because in the end, he decides
Mm-hmm.
to destroy the Chimera virus instead of giving it to the IMF, which is what they actually wanted. Right. So it's like that. I mean, just that idea. Like I think I like that
Yeah,
about these movies. I like that there's never this sense Ethan Hunt may be good, but that doesn't mean that the IMF
correct.
itself is inherently good, right? And he makes these decisions that kind of go across all the
Mm-hmm.
movies. As you said, like there's always the tension between him and the bad guy, but also between him and his country or the different agencies within the country for what is actually true and
And
right.
that's the crazy part, because they trust these individuals to do all this other stuff. But this one little thing, once that goes awry, now we gotta basically either divulge his identity, or we have to
Yeah.
say, you know
Burn him.
what, we're
Yep.
gonna burn you. Burn notice here. We disavow ourselves from any and all acknowledging whether or not he even existed. Like we had nothing to do with it. Literally throwing him under the bus, and that to me is such
Right.
a disservice to the sacrifice that he's making by putting his life on the line, and his team, mind you. It's not just him. It's
Yeah.
also a
Yeah.
collective that help him get the job done.
Yeah, and going back to you mentioned that this is a build off of a television show. I like that they kept the elements
Yeah.
of the show. Like they always make sure that they're going
Yep.
to play the song, which is
Dun,
one of the
dun,
great
dun, dun,
movie
dun.
song. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, as soon
Yeah.
as you hear it, you know exactly what it is, right? So I like that they do that, and they always do it in the beginning, opening scene, so it makes
Yeah.
it feel like you're watching
Yep.
a show, but then they kept like certain essential elements, like the idea of the message that always self
Yeah.
destructs. Part of the fun of watching these movies is to
I was-
see how is he going to get the message, and then how is it going to self destruct, right? And then I was thinking about how in this movie, the idea of him getting to choose his
Mm,
team is kind of reminds me of like when we were growing up the role playing
yeah.
games where it was like you would have a character, but then you needed
Hmm.
other characters on your crew, so you needed a
Yeah.
magician and blacksmith and a warrior, and then you would go out and do things. This movie is like that too, and the Mission Impossible films are like that because he needs to get this
Hmm.
different team of people based on the type of work that particular mission
Yeah.
requires.
Like there's a tool for every different job application or whatever have you. I like that part as well. Simultaneously, they always have the cool adage or the cool phrase in there. And one of them, it's like the guy knocks on the door and he's dressed in like a mailman type
Oh
joint.
yeah,
He's like, the sky whispers to the warrior, a storm is coming. And then all of a sudden he replies, and the warrior replies, I am the storm. And then,
I'm the
you know,
storm.
it,
I like that. I've always liked that one. That's a
those
good.
things
Yeah,
get
that's
me
a
hyped
tough
because
one.
I'll be in the theater and I'll be like,
Yeah,
whoo, it's about to get on. And-
right, right. You want somebody to call you at your job like that, say, right. "We sent you an email, and the manager said that there's a storm coming." I am the storm.
It's so crazy, man. Like this guy, he always has either the line that's like captures everything in an essence, or he's talking to somebody and then they deliver the line to what he's saying. That's
Yeah,
like just like a back and forth. That chemistry, that bond that they have, the volley and serve, excellent, man. They always pick the great villains, and they always have the great cast of co actresses such as Maggie Q, Paula Patton, and now Thandiwe
mhm,
Newton.
yeah. And you brought up the bad guys, and in this one, they got the Sean Ambrose character who you
Yeah.
mentioned in
Dougray
the
Scott
intro.
is the actor.
Yeah, I like that villain because I like the fact that they picked that the villain knows Ethan
Yeah,
Hunt and knows how Ethan Hunt gets down. So it's like there's always like a sort of a
yeah,
psychological game that is being played between the two of them as two agents, where you get the sense that Sean is in competition with Ethan, but Ethan is not in competition with Sean. And then there's also like this thing where they're competing over the same
Mm,
woman because they both are, they're both into Nyah. But it's like I like how in the film they don't make Sean
no.
a dummy. Like Sean is also a
Yes.
competent agent as well, and he's capable of all the subterfuge and all those things. That's how he ends up with Bellerophon in the beginning. And it's like I like how they wrote that character because, like, to your point, these movies don't really work if the bad
That is
guy
correct.
isn't good. And then you got to have a competent villain for Ethan Hunt's character
Yeah,
to play
and
off.
piggybacking off of that, which is crazy, is that Dougray Scott was supposed to be Wolverine, but if it wasn't for him
I
filming
saw
this
that. Yeah,
movie, he would have been Wolverine, but that didn't happen. And the same
yeah,
thing with Ian McKellen, plays Magneto. He was offered the role
yeah.
that Sir Anthony Hopkins has, and if he doesn't say no, thank you, there's no Lord of the Rings. Then there is no X-Men.
Right.
So it's funny how people are supposed to be in the position where they are, and that's one of the commentaries where they talk about in the IMF series where I am where I'm supposed to be right now, and if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. Insert any character. They may not say those literal words, but it's alluded to.
Yeah. The number of people, like, just kind of get it, like, getting prepared for this show and then all the ones that we're gonna do after this, the number of people that were supposed to be in Mission
Mm,
Impossible films that ended up not being in them, and then the people they were replaced by, it's like a who's
it's
who
crazy.
of actors and actresses. Really, and it really shows you how much people
Mm,
want to be a part of the franchise, right? Like, I think actors also see value in the franchise itself, and they want to work in it. And it's just so interesting who gets in it and who doesn't. And a lot of times, like, scheduling
yeah.
concerns and things like that. But it really speaks to the quality of the film and what the industry
Oh
itself
yeah,
thinks
definitely
about
a
these.
testament to the cast, to the directors, the writers, editors, but to Tom Cruise himself. And even with that being said, that's one of the things that I definitely like most about this movie is the quality of the acting by the actors and actresses respectively.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And that's a good segue into our cake. So, once again, this is your first time listening with us. We talk about the cake, the things that we really like about the film. We talk about the hate, the things that we didn't like too much. Then we got some questions that are in and around the movie, and then we'll go from that point. So, Mr. Will, what you got as the cake
Yeah,
on
so
this
aside
one?
from that, I'm also feeling the point of the imagery. And you got the flames engulfing that frame.
Yes, very
Yeah,
cool
and then you got
scene.
the
Yeah,
dove flying through, and then
yeah,
every actor for whatever reason has that slow mo, scene where they're walking,
got to do
and
it.
you just see Tom Cruise look at, excuse me, you see Ethan Hawke look at Sean Ambrose like, yeah, it's me. You knew it was me. I'm coming, and here I am. Uh, Definitely
Right.
love the name of the virus and of the vaccine.
Great name, the Chimera. Yes, Chimera
That
virus.
joint
Yep.
sounds like something you don't want no parts of whatsoever. And the etymology
No, with
behind that, the
nobody.
story, the Greek tragedy behind that, and everything about it just fits. Uh, I'm also if I know I've said it before, but I love the casting of Thandiwe Newton, of Ving Rhames,
Very good.
and
Yeah.
of Anthony Hopkins because it shows a who's who in the industry who is bringing forth that talent because you want to work with the best. And at the same time, Luther being from the first one, there shows that continuity. And at the same time, I think they recognize, there's a sex appeal, there's a standard of excellence that we want both visually and as far as stimulation mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And then last but not least, can't forget the fighting choreography. I said it before, the slow
Hmm.
motion scene and the stunts. Without that, you really don't have Mission Impossible. You have something else, and it's just all together.
Yeah, and I agree with all those points. Yeah, I mean that's a lot of what I liked. Scene wise, I love that scene. The first scene when Ethan
Oh
meets
yeah,
Nyah in the bathtub, and, like, like, there's like that kind of like awkward
yeah,
humor, sexual chemistry thing that they have going on. I always buy in the movie that they
yeah,
would like each other. So I always like sometimes they try to force those in movies, but in this sense, I thought it really
yeah.
works. I liked it. You mentioned Anthony Hopkins. That line
It's
that he
cold.
says that to go to bed with a man and lie to him, she's a woman. She has had all the training she needs. Like, that's a cold
Yeah,
line. Like, you talk about the "I am the storm" line. That's a cold
and he
line in this
says it so
film.
matter of
And
factly, man.
He does. He does. He delivers it so well that Ethan, who was kind of on the fence, like he's because at
We
first
can't
he's like,
send her.
nah,
She's
she
not
can't go on the
prepared.
field. She
Yeah.
had training. And then he says that he's like, all right, cool. Yeah, you're right. She can go.
All right, cool.
Yeah, she can go. All right, fine. Yeah. And like that's also I also like scenes like that because I like scenes where you have like this really well established actor like Anthony Hopkins, and then you have Tom Cruise, who's a good actor as well, but they're just kind of
There's
they're seen a
levels to
little bit
this, man.
differently. Yeah, and it's like Anthony Hopkins, his frame in that scene, you buy
Yeah.
him saying that to
Yeah.
Ethan, and you buy Ethan saying, "All right, cool," because not just the authority of the position, but also just the gravitas of
Yeah.
him as an actor. So I really like that scene. I like you mentioned like with Ambrose, so it's a funny kind of dirtbag scene, but I like how the scene when Ambrose pretends to be Ethan, and then he
Oh,
sees Nyah outside
yeah.
his compound, right? And he knows like you know that he's sad because he really
Yeah.
likes Nyah, right? And he knows that Nyah don't really
Mhm.
mess with him like that. But when he tells her, he's like, all right, look, I want you to do everything that Sean says from now on. Okay. No matter what it is that Sean asked you to do, all that stuff you said you didn't want to do, you got to
That
do it
thing you don't
now because
like.
the world relies on it, right? And she's like, really? And it's like, it's such a jerk thing, right? But you buy Sean Ambrose doing it, and it's like, it's a funny kind of inside the scene joke, but I get it,
Definitely,
right? So I
yo.
like that. And like as you said, the fighting in the scenes, all that is great, man. So that's what I got
That is
pick wise.
crazy, man. Crazy. Because it reminds me of that Kanye West joint where he's singing, let's have a toast to the DBs. Let's have a toast
Right,
to
right,
the
right.
A-holes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yep. And he's Sean
yeah.
Ambrose be right there with his joint up with a bottle,
Yeah, he
swinging
would.
that joint
Yeah, he
around,
would.
having a good time with his man with one finger with his pinky cut off,
That that
looking
shows you
sad.
just how like you don't want to mess with this guy because even his own man had to face some of the repercussions of failure, of questioning his mental fortitude.
Right. Well, here's the thing though, too, right? If we could just keep it a buck, man. I mean, there's nothing everything about Naya would suggest that she absolutely could bend a man up, like mess
Oh,
up a
of
dude's
course.
mind, right? She definitely could do that. So when the dude is challenging Sean on that, Sean's like, hold up, dog, you don't understand the stuff that I'm getting right now,
It's that
dog. Like
premium.
you trying to talk to me, right? You talking to me about money. Like, dog, this is
Like,
better than money right here. Like, I don't think you understand. You're getting between me and something I really like. Like, I'll cut
we
you up
cool
for this
and all,
girl,
but
man.
you ain't her.
Right. You're my man. But look, don't say anything else about her
You're
because
gonna
you
get.
go, I'll put the chimera virus in you, dog. We put you in a tube and watch you, man. Don't mess up this thing. I got going on. Like he said, like, cause he's like, yeah, no, I am actually biting for it or whatever it
He
was.
said,
He's like,
I know that she's not here for me. I know that she could be a plant by the IMF, but I'm going to
absolutely,
get
yeah.
something out of it.
Right,
Once he said
right,
that,
right.
I
And
was like,
that's
yo,
right. The real addiction. Look, and every man has been there. You've been there. Like, look,
cocaine.
in real life, every man has been there. Your friends be like, dog, why are you paying that girl rent? Yeah, that's why. You know, Ethan
What
have been
was
paying
what was
that
the
rent too. He even did the
what was
same.
the Harlem Nights joint? He's
Look,
like, Stella,
oh,
or he's like,
sunshine,
he's
sunshine.
like, Stella, put
Yeah,
your mother on the phone. Yo, this is Tony or Richie. I ain't never coming home. Like,
right. And he said it with pride. Like, and he hung up the phone. Like, yeah, I made the right. Look, for real, we don't even know what happened to Nye after this, but she definitely stole some money from Ethan
some,
and disappeared. Like,
something had to
it's no question. And he was like, all right,
something had
cool.
to have
Like,
happened because he
that's
ends up getting
fine.
married in the next movie.
Right. It was like, I gotta get my whole life back together, man. Now I done messed my
Yo,
credit
I
up.
can't be in these streets no more, yo. Single life is killing me,
Everything.
yo.
Right. Right. I can't be out here. Right. Right. Anthony Hopkins probably has to say, look, Ethan, dog,
But
you missing these. We trying to send these important missions to you, missing the missions. They blowing up before he probably not getting the whole mission
we
on
got
time. The joint blow up. He like, hey, could y'all send it to me again? Cause I missed the last part of it. Cause Nia was talking in the back. They're like, dog, you gotta get rid of her, man.
oh,
All right. So What you got? What you got on
He
the
said,
hate
"Yo,
part, man?
she was talking to me."
She kept talking. I couldn't hear her say.
You gotta reset that joint. I missed the coordinates.
Can you present
Oh,
it?
oh man. As far as the hate, man, look, I've said it once, I've said it twice. This is not one of my favorite movies. I on
It's
I
not one,
honestly
yeah, no.
believe that, they could have done a little bit more. It could have been a little bit better. So essentially, I'm just going with I hate everything other than the like.
Essentially, right. Essentially, outside of these parts
That's
that I
it.
like,
That's it.
it's trash, right? It's funny, man. A lot of people, like, so on our threads page, I like started like, just put stuff out here about this. This is probably the movie that people seem to not like the most
Yeah.
out of all of them. It's really it's interesting because the odd thing about it is next to Fallout, it's the one that made the most
Wow.
money.
That I did not
So
know.
it's number two of all the
Wow.
movies, right? In fact, the third one with Philip Seymour Hoffman made
Are
the
you
least amount of money.
serious?
Yeah. It's very, very interesting. So this is the one that people don't like, and yet it made the second most amount of money. I actually like the one with Philip Seymour Hoffman. People hated that one. Well, to the extent that people didn't actually go and see it. So I mean, like it's really interesting how
I
that
think that's
happened,
the
man.
Spider-Man syndrome, man, where they just don't want to see their superheroes, their heroes married, happy, stable, structured. I think
Mm,
they think the hero
interesting.
has to be tormented, and that's the drive for
Interesting.
him so that others don't end up in that same position.
Interesting.
And that's some hated stuff.
Interesting. That's a good point. I like that. That's an interesting point. All right. That's a good point. Yeah, that's on spots. That's good. Like right off the top of your head, sitting there, like that's good. Um, as far as things I didn't like that much, we mentioned it before. I never liked the car
Mm,
scene, the car chase. I know what they're trying to do. I get the extended metaphor of
yeah.
the dance and the seduction and the chase. It just didn't. It just seems whack to me with cars, and I just don't think. You know what it is? I think like for her character, for Naya's character, I just don't believe that if you can be a thief, you can do everything.
Mm.
So like because I'm a thief, I can also be like I'm a dangerous NASCAR driver. I can buy Ethan Hunt. I can buy Ethan Hunt doing anything, right? But I don't buy her doing that. So that was my issue with that. The pacing is a little bit off. It's like sometimes it kind of drags a little
Mm.
bit in the middle of it. So it's kind of like that's just a little weird to me. I didn't particularly like that. And then the last thing is I like as much as I like Ethan and Naya's like
Mhm.
chemistry, I didn't really like that he
Wow.
slept with her. I
Yeah.
understand why he slept with her. I get that
Mhm.
part. But it just didn't feel right for the character. It just
Mm.
felt like he just wouldn't do that. I like it seemed like it almost feels like it's a plot device because it
Oh.
makes her more personal to
Okay.
him. And then when she, puts the chimera virus in her, it allows him to have a deeper
Yeah.
care for her.
More
But I just never really bought
I
that,
get
man.
the incentive that you're talking about where it's like now he really has to risk it all because she even says on the
Yeah.
balcony, like, well, it would have been nice that this wasn't just a fling and that I meant something to
Yeah. She was trying to hit him
yeah.
with like the what are we
And yeah,
conversation.
basically. And he's saying, like, does it help you feel better if I said that it does bother you?
Yeah, just like, oh, come on. You knew
Yeah,
each
you
other
know
for
what I
three
mean?
days, man.
So I get it. But at the same time, in order to advance who she is and her growth and her character development, these things are a necessary evil. Simultaneously,
Yeah.
even with the car chasing, like you said, it's an extension of the dance. It's an extension of playing hard to
Yes.
get and the chase and things being worthwhile once you get a hold of it, et cetera, et cetera. But at that point, how else were they to try and get these two, basically these immovable object and unstoppable force together when they're both so very opinionated and headstrong and accustomed to working alone in certain aspects of their professional careers?
It's a great question, and I'm gonna get to that in my hot
Gotcha.
take because that is actually gets into that there. So yeah, it's all right, man. So let's jump
Yeah.
into the questions, man. What you
All
got on the
right. So I
questions?
got three for you. All right. First one
Okay.
is, what is the value of a single life compared to millions?
Yeah, this is so. As I said, man, watching like to get ready for these films,
Yeah.
I just start watching Mission Impossible films, right? And I realized that this idea that Ethan is never going to sacrifice
Mhm.
one person to save everyone, and yet he also will do everything. He'll
Oh
sacrifice
yeah,
himself to
definitely.
save everyone is like the foundational element of this character. Because when you go back to that scene when Nyah shoots the chimera virus in herself, she thinks he's going to shoot
Yeah,
and kill her. Like, remember, she takes the gun,
yeah.
she puts on her chest, pull the trigger, and we're good, right? But he's not going to do it, and this becomes the theme for the character all through the movies, right? From this point forward, and I think like that question gets to the crux
Mm,
of the character that Ethan is not going to sacrifice one person to save many, but he will sacrifice himself to
I
save
dig it.
everybody.
That great response, man. Great response.
Thank you, man. It's like I practiced
I
it.
dig it, man. My next question for you is: should Ethan Hunt open a side business in motorcycle stunt shows?
Dog, I love this question. Absolutely, he should. Absolutely. Cause like in the third one, he's like, yeah, I work for the
Mhm.
DMV or whatever, Department of Transportation. Like, no, dog, he should absolutely do something where he can at least ride a motorcycle because you can see
Yeah,
that's
it
fun
is.
for him, right? Do something like because he can't do
No,
this forever. I mean, like, I don't know how the final reckoning is gonna end, but if it did end giving us like a glimpse into what Ethan Hunt's real post IMF life looks like, and it still has some danger in it, that would
yeah, it
make
would.
sense to
Yeah,
me.
it would.
So yeah, so I like that. I like that idea. That's they might be stealing that from
Hey,
they
yeah,
shot it.
at least give us a
Yeah,
shout out.
yeah,
My
man.
last question for you though is does every hero have to have a slow motion scene while saving the world?
Got to do it,
Mm,
man. You got to do it. The John Woo style, and I know the John Woo style predates obviously like the
yeah,
Matrix and those things like that. But I do think that that slow motion style that he institutes in this film and that he institutes in other films like The Replacement
yeah,
Killers and things
dope
like
movie.
that, it just does this way of like adding more drama to
Mm,
the scene. And I've seen that tried. I've seen that done a lot with like Zack Snyder does
mhm.
that all the time, like in his films. But there's something about the way that John Woo does it that it doesn't feel
Yeah,
excessive, even though he does it a lot. It's like perfectly balanced, right? Like you can tell that that's his thing. But yeah, if you do it right, all movies, all heroes can have moments like that. Like I wish somebody would do get me like that at my job, like when I'm typing on the screen, like like so, like just to make it look cool. Like like when like how when you got a fresh outfit on, you walking down the street, like you feel like you moving in slow motion, and everybody's looking at you. They're not, but it
you
looks
get
like
that.
you feel like
Yeah,
that.
I
Like this movie just taps into like that cool factor that
I
is
got
there.
you on that, man. Oh, that's dope.
So that's what I would say. All right, man. I got a couple for you. All right. So first question. So all right. So once Naya gets injected with the chimera virus, right? She goes to like the edge of like I don't know if that's the Indian Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, the Southern Ocean, but she about to jump in, right? If she does that, doesn't she kill everybody on the face of the planet
No
Earth from that
question,
point?
because and that's why I'm like, you didn't think that one all the way through. Because one, if
Nah,
somebody consumes her corpse, that's chum to them. So they're like, yo, they're gonna,
right.
the animals are gonna eat it. So whether it's a shark or a seal or a dolphin, whatever it may be, they're going to eat it. And then you know how the life cycle is. That's going to get passed on to smaller
Right.
fish. Humans are either going to make tuna fish or whatever it is they're going to make out of fish sticks, you name it. And then it's going to spread around. And even if no animals even eat it, her blood's in the water. Now that's going to go through
Yeah.
whatever channels in order to clean this, or people on the beaches. It's just not going to end well for society.
Right. Right. You had me at sharks with chimera virus. Like that's the ultimate shark week right there. Shark chimera virus sharks.
Oh,
Like that's some Doctor Evil stuff with with
lasers.
lasers on their head. With lasers on their head, man. All right, man. Next question. All right. So like how they have those things where you have one, pick one to help to
Oh yeah,
save
yeah,
you,
yeah.
and the other three try to kill you. All right. So you got Ethan Hunt, you got James Bond, you got Jason Bourne, and you got Jack Reacher. Amazon Jack
Yeah,
Reacher,
yeah,
not
yeah,
Tom
yeah.
Cruise Jack Reacher. All right. Pick one of them to save you. The other three are trying to kill you. Who you
I'm
picking to
going with
save
Ethan Hunt, man. And he does this. I'm telling you, he does this for a living.
okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Okay. Because he
And there's
saves people
nothing
for a
this cat
living.
can't do,
Yeah.
yo. Nothing.
Okay. All right. That's not a bias because
Oh
we're
no,
talking
not
about this
none
movie.
whatsoever. I just think like
Okay.
shout out to all those guys. You know what I mean? James Bond, what you call it? Matt Damon's character, Jason
Jason
Bourne,
Bourne, yeah.
and even Alan Richard, who's actually Jack Reacher, on the Amazon joint.
Yeah.
But something about Ethan just says he won't quit, and that when the stakes are high,
I
he'll
dig it.
persevere. So I'm running with Ethan.
He'll jump in front of a
Yeah.
bullet
What
for you
about you,
too.
man?
Rest.
Who's your
I'm taking the dude
guy?
with the
Alan
biggest
Richard.
muscles, man. Give me, yeah,
Yeah.
give me him. Because at least because I feel like he could take Ethan and throw him out a window if he had to. The rest, he could beat every. I figure like he could just beat up all the other,
Might make
the other
right.
guys. But I will, but I will say that Ethan will probably is the one who's most likely to make
Yeah,
sure
well,
that
that's
you
the whole
live.
objective.
Yeah, no, you're right. No, I can see that. I could definitely
Wow,
see that.
might
I could
versus
definitely see
right
that.
versus total optimism. Ah, that's good.
There it is. There it is, man. All right. So all right. So there's three franchises, right? So you got Jurassic Park, you got the Mission Impossible, and you got Fast and Furious. Three franchises that have made movies over decades, right? Obviously, Mission Impossible being the longest. Maybe second. I mean, maybe Jurassic Park has been around a little bit longer in
Yeah,
terms of like
yeah,
the
I'm thinking
movie
about it.
parts.
Yeah, you might be right.
But of those three, which one would you say has had the biggest impact on the movie business?
Wow. Uh, you know what?
I know
Yo.
it's a weighty
It's a
question.
clean sweep, man. I'm going with Mission Impossible because of the
Okay,
influence of Tom Cruise, because of what his stature means to the movie experience, because of him
got
playing
it.
this impeccable guy who's a stand-up guy. He's not a jerk. He represents everything that's good. Yeah, I'm going with Ethan and Mission
Yeah,
Impossible.
I like that, and I think the idea of the actor that does his
Oh
own
yeah,
stunts is it completely originates with him
no
and with these
question.
movies.
Oh,
So
and that and him running
yeah,
for miles upon miles at a full sprint.
how about that? Why does he have to run in all
Dude,
the movies?
I think he honestly has it written into his contract. Like, yo, I need a scene that shows me running.
Yeah, yeah, because it looks
Oh
like he's
yeah,
fast.
yeah.
To be fair, he
Oh
does. It looks
no.
like he does have wheels. Like he would definitely beat Rich
Oh,
Eisen
no
in the
question.
40.
Shout
Shout
out
out
to
to
Rich though.
Rich Eisen.
I think he's a fellow Raider
Yeah,
fan
he would
too,
get.
actually. So yeah, definitely shout out to yeah.
Then yeah, you definitely
Yeah.
rock with him. All right. So speaking of Tom Cruise, man, I know like Final Reckoning hasn't
Mhm.
come out yet, but up till now, what are your five favorite Tom
Man,
Cruise
I'm going in
films?
reverse order with this one too, and I gave it much thought,
Okay.
and you really put me on
Okay.
the spot with this one. Number five, I'm going with Top Gun. Um, I
Great
think it's
movie.
where
Mhm.
one of the things that started it all for him as far as being seen in a potential action role. And he nailed it. Definitely going with Top Gun. Um, Number four, I'm going with The Firm, man.
Great film, man. I love The
Not only was
Firm.
the book
Yeah.
good, but it led to some classic hip hop joints from one of our favorite artists. You're probably your favorite artist of all time, Mr. Nasir. Yes,
Nasir
sir.
Jones. Yeah.
And a thing too about it is Tom Cruise is believable as a young, naive college graduate
Yeah.
who is swept up in the
Yes.
corporate world of being an attorney
Mm-hmm.
and coming to find out it's for mob and other illegal people, other criminals rather, doing illegal acts. So I'm definitely running with that. We just spoke about it. Number three is Jack Reacher. Just just for the fight
Okay.
scene alone, where he's beating the crap out of those guys for half a day.
Right. Yeah. That's a YouTube
Yeah, and
classic
then
right
number
there.
two is Ghost Protocol, and number one, of course, is Rogue Nation. Uh, yeah, man,
Okay.
gotta run with
Okay.
those, man.
Okay. So you're squarely like the Tom Cruise Mission Impossible films are
Yeah,
the
I
films
think
you
it's
like most.
because it demonstrates everything that he brings to the table. He
Yeah.
delivers great lines. He's in great shape, so he's able to do his own stunts. So that lends itself, like we discussed before, with him being on site, on camera, so they could do different things, show different facets up close. There's no glitches, no goofs. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, man, he does it all. Yeah,
Good stuff. Yeah, that's good stuff, man. It's good top five. All right, man. So on the popcorn side, so popcorn is when we rate the films, like in terms of like boxes of popcorn from
yeah.
1 to 5. I will go first on this one. So I got this at about 3.5. I will admit, like I just like this film. It's just funny to me. I remember watching it in the movie theater, and the part where Tom Cruise did the spin flip
Yeah.
kick thing. I was sitting next to this lady, and she was like, "I want my baby's father to be like that." I remember watching it. It just every time I see
Yeah.
him do that, it always reminds me of that scene. So that
Mm.
I just have good memories attached to it. And with that said, there's better
Of
Mission
course.
Impossible films, no question about it, no question about it. But 3.5 on this one,
I
man. What you
remember
got on
with
this?
3. I didn't bury the lead. I'm not a fan of the movie. There are some limited aspects that I can definitely tip my hat to, but in general, nah. Uh, not my
Not
cup
your
of
cup of
tea.
tea for the Tom Cruise joints. All right, cool. Would you say that of all of them, this is the worst?
Yes. Yes. Because I too
Okay.
like that
All right.
one with Seymour Hoffman when they introduced Julia,
Yeah, the
because it
third one.
humanized him. It showed him being
Yeah.
a down to earth guy who seeks companionship, just like the rest of us. That, he's not an island, he's not all about work. And two, this is his craft. And he found someone that he can spend the rest of his life with and not have to worry about getting shot to smithereens. So he's willing,
Or
you know
so
what I
we
mean? He's
thought.
like, yo, I deserve to enjoy some of this freedom that I've been fighting for. I want to see what that looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a constant. He's an agent though,
This is
through and
true.
through.
But I do have a question, one more question
He's
for you. You mentioned, the 5 Tom
yeah.
Cruise joints. What's your 5, man?
Let me see.
I know
Without
you
so
didn't.
I
Yeah,
didn't
I
think
know.
about him
I'm
in
putting you on the
order.
spot.
Yeah, not in order.
Okay.
Collateral
We did
is
that.
one. I loved him in Collateral. Minority
Uh-huh.
Report and Eyes Wide Shut, which by the
Both
way
of those
we've
3s.
covered on
Yep.
the show. So yeah, so if you go back and you look in our archives, we covered all three of those. I also will put in what's the joint? Edge of
Mm,
Tomorrow.
I like that
So I
one
like
too.
that with the getting
Yeah.
killed and coming back like that. That was a sneaky good one. Last but not least, I'm going to put in Days of
Wow.
Thunder, which I really dug. The
Yeah.
car racing movie. Yeah, even I know you've seen those commercials for the Brad Pitt joint
Yeah.
F1 coming out.
You
Every time I
automatically
see
get
it,
Days
I
Thunder.
think about
Yep.
Days of Thunder. That's how I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I could see that. So, yeah, good films all around the board. And he's got some other films that I wouldn't I've liked, but not quite as much. Like I liked Vanilla Sky. I know a lot of people don't mess with that movie at all, but it's like I like it because it's a weird
Mhm.
kind of film, And like Top Gun, great pick. That's always been like it made me want to be in the Air
Wow, get
Force
out of here.
when I saw it. I did when I was young. I wanted to
I
be an
had
Air Force
no
pilot after
idea.
watching that.
Wow.
So yeah, so that
Wow,
one was
that's
hitting
tough,
me.
man.
Yep. All right, so hot takes, man. Mr. Will, what's your hot take on Mission
One
Impossible
sentence.
2?
This film shouldn't have been made. I've already discussed it. No need to elaborate.
That's it. All right, man. So my take is I think that Tom Cruise figures out what he wants to do with Ethan Hunt
Okay.
character from this movie forward. So I
Mm.
think I think like when it comes to like he decides, okay, I don't want to do I'm gonna be the agent that goes
I
around and
love
sleeps with
James Bond.
people. I don't want to
Yeah.
do the James Bond. Yeah, I don't want to do the James Bond joint. I think he figures out I don't want to do the acrobatic fighting
Mhm.
style thing. I want my fighting style to be more sort of like a grounded, kind of like
Yeah.
in who he is, and that's kind of like what you see Ethan do forward. I think he's absolutely like I want to be in motorcycles as much as
All the
possible,
time.
which is why he's on
Mhm.
motorcycles throughout the rest of these movies. And I think he also, and I remember you saying this earlier, so I can't say this is my idea, but this movie is kind of a smaller
Mm.
scale in terms of the idea that like it's not like the globe
Yeah.
trotting great landmarks
Mhm.
kind of film that the
Yeah.
other ones are, and it's a little bit smaller in scale than like the other ones that were automatically have these world altering
Yeah.
stakes. And I think Tom Cruise realized if I'm going to keep doing these movies, every movie the stakes have got to be higher and higher and higher. So I think like he learned. I think like this movie is like the learning, the testing ground
Potential
for
themes and
making
ideas.
better
I
MI films.
got you.
Which I think like that those three movies when you get to like Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation,
Mm.
Fallout,
Mm.
that's like the
Yeah.
pinnacle of like these
Yeah. No,
films.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Great.
So
Great
yeah, man.
observation.
So that's where I got on. Yeah, that's where I am with that. Yeah, and so that's our breakdown of Mission Impossible 2. So, as I said at the beginning, we're going to do a couple of Mission Impossible films leading up to Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Next week, we're going to come back with Mission Impossible
Can't wait.
Fallout, which is one that we both really dug that one. So, definitely please check that out. Once again, the Sticky Floors podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts. We are on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify Podcasts. We are on YouTube. So please subscribe and share this, and we will check you next week. Peace.